Coming up, it's a plane, it's a bird. Much ado about something in D.C.
Taking controllers for a flight, plus upset recovery in heavy iron. AOP Live this week begins in just a moment.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haines and Melissa Rudinger.
Panic in Washington on Tuesday. The White House, Capitol, and other federal buildings locked down.
Unidentified flying objects detected in Washington's restricted airspace. The Black Hawks and fighter jets scrambled. I'm Warren Morningstar, in for Tom Haines this week. And it turned out to be a false alarm, no intruder aircraft. But with a lot of folks flying over the river and over the woods this weekend, it doesn't hurt for us to remind you again, check NOTAMs, lest you find an F-16 pulling up beside you. Of course, the Washington, D.C. Special Flight Rules area is hot all the time, as is the TFR over Trump Tower in New York. However, it looks like the president will spend Thanksgiving in Florida, so there are TFRs through December 1st in the Palm Beach area. So, as we like to say, and so we do, check NOTAMs. And we do wish you a happy Thanksgiving. We hope you're enjoying the holiday with loved ones and maybe even doing a bit of flying.
And we're thankful for you. We asked pilots on social media what makes them give thanks this week. Some really great responses. Greenville Aviation says the ability to fly into any of the 19,622 airports in the U.S. is what they're thankful for. Faye's Brigade tells us that after 17 years of on and off lessons, they finally earned their private.
Matt Perry Skis says simply flying. Nate the Greatest 30 is thankful for his instrument rating. And what are you thankful for, Melissa?
I'm thankful for another great year here. I actually really love that I've been here so long and have been able to do so many things in the aviation field. And so that's what I'm thankful for. How about you?
Well, of course, I'm thankful for my family, and I'm thankful for my puppy dog, and I'm thankful for the ability to fly. And, this is going to sound self-serving, but I really am thankful for all of the folks here at AOPA that are keeping all of us flying, from the folks down in the Pilot Information Center who every day are helping individual pilots solve their problems, get back in the air, to folks in advocacy like yourself who are keeping us safe from some of the excessive government regulations and other things. And just to pat you on the back again, but I truly believe, as a lot of other folks do, that if it weren't for you, we would have been shut down after 9/11 and wouldn't be back in the air.
Oh, well, thank you. And it takes the whole team, so
it does indeed.
Well said. Bonanza owners have something to be thankful for, about 1,000 of them. The FAA has revised the Aileron Flight Control Cable End Fittings Airworthiness Directive. That after the American Bonanza Society told the FAA that certain models had a different design. That removed about 1,000 aircraft from the AD. More information on our website. A new use of technology to help combat runway incursions. 20 large airports in the United States now have runway status lights. The lights are embedded in the runways and taxiways. They illuminate when conflicting traffic could make takeoffs, landings, and taxiing dangerous. Should sensor systems detect an issue, the light turns red and provides a clear warning to pilots. The goal is to prevent runway incursions.
Well, we all ducked a bullet again Monday. The president signed another so-called continuing resolution, and that means the government, including the FAA, can keep the doors open until December 20th of this year. Whew. But the money runs out again on December 21st, and the threat again of a government shutdown. But a couple of congressmen have introduced a bill that would keep the controllers on the scopes and the rest of the FAA humming, even if the rest of the government shuts down. The Aviation Funding Stability Act is being pushed by Representatives Rick Larson of Washington and Peter DeFazio of Oregon. They've already got 260 co-sponsors. They're shooting for 290, which would give them a supermajority and the ability to scoot the bill quickly through the House.
And speaking of controllers, ATC does an amazing job keeping us safe every day, but sometimes it would be nice if they had a better understanding of what things look like in the cockpit. A group of pilots with the Goldsboro Wayne Aviation Association had an idea. take air traffic controllers flying so they can better relate to the pilot's side of the radio. AOPA Live's Josh Cochran has the story about the 4th annual Fly the Controller event.
It's not an experience an air traffic controller gets every day, flying formation in an RV. But that's what Matthew Henry is doing at this year's Fly the Controller event in Goldsboro, North Carolina.
These controllers control a bunch of traffic in and around the mid-Atlantic, and what we're trying to do is build a relationship with them and educate them and ourselves about the airspace that we're operating.
The flight around Seymour Johnson Air Force Base and a few surrounding airports helps the controllers to better understand the airspace from a pilot's perspective.
For them to understand that it's rather difficult to pick up a tower or a plane, or even sometimes a small uncontrolled field like this with poor viz, you may not get it. So it's really important for them to see the relationship of rather than the radar scope and why can't you see that? Now they go, oh, I get it.
And here I want you to look for the tower. Do you see the tower yet?
I see a tower, but I don't know if that's the big one.
It ain't the big one.
From this, you see how hard it is to actually see other aircraft. They're basically just tiny dots in the sky. And then if you tell them, hey, like the airfield's like at 12 o'clock, if they're like 10 miles away, we understand how hard it is for them to actually see that. So we're more patient with the pilots.
In this part of the country, there's significant military traffic, so it's especially important for civilian pilots, military pilots, and controllers to work together.
We have those F-15Es scooting around here at 3,000 feet, sometimes down at 500 feet doing their low levels, cruising around at 300 to 500 knots, and we want to make sure that the civilians know where they're at, how to look for them, and to make sure that the military guys understand that the civilians are out here as well.
And while the event is about making aviation safer, it's also about sharing the love of flight with these controllers.
My 3rd year doing this. I actually got my private pilot license last year, and it was pretty much because of this. The first year I flew, they let you fly the plane, and I thought it was so much fun. I actually started taking lessons, and then last May I ended up getting my private pilot license.
And Matthew's story is just one success story of many to come out of this event, an example of different parts of the aviation community working together. Josh Cochran, AOPA Live.
Over 40 controllers went flying during this year's event. Fly the Controller is just one of the many events put on by the Goldsboro-Wayne Aviation Association to promote safety and community in aviation.
Yeah, the controllers do great work. Well, as the holiday shopping season begins, there's something to consider for the pilot on your list. Hint, hint, Beth. How about a ranch on the Colorado River just outside Moab, Utah? It comes complete with a chartered runway and helipad. Caveman Ranch is Uniform Tango 68 on the sectional. The 3,000-foot gravel runway will take you to these eccentric but fun buildings, one of which is built into the rock wall. Now, the area is super scenic. You can take a flight like this. Of course, this all comes for a pretty penny, like about $6.5 million is the asking price. Now, the original vision was to be a travel destination and dude ranch. We just ask that if you buy it, we get to come and visit from time to time. Boy, I'd love that. You know, that's my old stomping ground, so
I know.
I know the area well. In fact, actually, they did land a couple of times, not at Caveman, but there's another ranch along the Colorado River, and I landed on the runway there. So.
Well, if you ever retire, buy the ranch.
Yeah, only $6.5 million. Well, when we come back, upset training like you haven't seen before.
And a hefty fine for a runaway drone. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Of course, we're coming up on Cyber Monday, and after that is Giving Tuesday. As you're opening your wallet in generosity, we'd ask that you consider the AOPA Foundation. The foundation is a nonprofit 501c3, and your tax professional can tell you how a donation may be an advantage for you. Your donations to the AOPA Foundation provide a great advantage to the aviation community. They fund programs that membership dues don't cover, such as the AOPA Air Safety Institute and the You Can Fly programs. The foundation also funds flight training scholarships. Learn more and make a donation at aopafoundation.org.
If you're not flying much over the winter, our friends at Assured Partners Aerospace have some useful tips to help your airplane survive the downtime. Keep the tanks full to reduce moisture. Change the oil so that the contaminants don't sit in the engine all winter. Make sure to guard against any critters that might like to call your airplane home for the season. Now, these and other helpful hints are on our website. We'll play stupid games, win stupid prizes. One drone hobbyist is trying to come up with $20,000 in fine money. The FAA dinged him for a number of violations. This after he flew a drone to take a photo of a Ferris wheel near the Las Vegas Strip. Now, the Strip, of course, is right against McCarran International Airport. The drone flew away from the operator, eventually landing next to an active runway at McCarran. This video is from that runaway flight. Ruben Burciaga was fined for flying a drone without permission in controlled airspace, flying over people, and imposing a hazard to other aircraft.
Now that Ferris wheel happens to be in Class Bravo airspace. In fact, most of the Strip and other tourist areas are in the Class B, right down the surface. And Burciaga would or should have known that had he used an app like FAA's Before You Fly. And there are others. There's something else, the LANC system. That's Low Altitude Authorization and Capability. It's a great way for drone pilots to get near real-time authorization to fly in some controlled airspace. The FAA just announced another expansion of the program. Some 600 airports are now covered. And had Burciaga looked at that system, he would have seen that no way, no how can you fly a drone over the Strip. That's what all those zeros mean.
Well, and finally, 10 years ago, a landmark accident led to a lot of changes in the airline industry, changes that general aviation pilots can learn from too. One change? What pilots now have to do in the simulator. I went to Louisville in the UPS Training Center to see it in action. This was the accident that changed airline flight training. Colgan Air Flight 3407 crashed just outside of Buffalo 10 years ago. The aircraft was iced up, but still flyable. The captain inexplicably responded to a stall warning, which was the stick shaker, by pulling back and holding the aircraft in the stall. Earlier that year, Air France 447 fell into the Atlantic Ocean. The crew had faulty airspeed indications, and they held the stick back and flew the aircraft into a stall. The BEA, the French equivalent of the NTSB, said the crew didn't recognize the approach to a stall or the stall itself. Again, pilots lost control of a perfectly flyable airplane.
You have loss of control in flight is the primary danger, and then controlled flight into terrain is a secondary.
105 knots.
And yet, until this year, many airline pilots had never experienced a full stall like this in the simulator.
And recover.
Since March of this year, the feds have required airlines like UPS to do extended envelope training.
Oh! Okay, push.
Bank angle. Bank angle. Bank angle. Pull up.
Sometimes called upset prevention and recovery training. Aerobatics instructor Catherine Cavanaro, who normally flies a Cessna Aerobat, and UPS Captain Jeff Bushman are going through the course today. Now, much like a biannual flight review for GA pilots, airline pilots must now return to the sim every 2 years to demonstrate flight at minimum controllable airspeed, recovery from stalls, upset recovery, hand flying after loss of airspeed, and hand flying IFR departures and approaches.
We teach our crews upset recoveries, but they were only sort of superficial. They were never into the deep stall regime, for instance. We never went beyond just the first indication of a stall. We never did the extreme upset, upside down flight and extreme attitudes that we're doing now.
Upset recover.
So we're going to push.
They learn how to recover from all types of unusual attitudes.
Upset recover.
And the procedure is always the same. First, get the wing flying.
You want to push to reduce angle of attack. You want to roll the wings level. You want to adjust the power as necessary. And then once that's completed, you stabilize the aircraft back to a stabilized state of flight.
For Catherine, it was somewhat different than flying her 152 Aerobat.
So I think what surprised me most about the training compared to the kind of loss of control recovery procedures that I teach in my airplane is the light forces that need to be applied to stay within the maneuvering envelope for the transport category airplane. airplanes.
But an airplane is still an airplane, regardless of size.
Anything from a Cessna 152 all the way up through an A380, with minor differences, all the principles apply. A wing is a wing, and getting the wing flying is paramount.
Look for an in-depth article from Catherine later on our website. Really was fascinating, and to think that it had never occurred to me, but to think that airline pilots really had never seen anything beyond the very beginnings of a stall until now.
Makes perfect sense and seems like a really common sense thing to do.
Well, and the other thing that was just reinforced from that is the importance of stick and rudder skills. There have been so many accidents, loss of control accidents with big airplanes, those small ones too, where people are trying to puzzle out what the automation is doing and ignoring what the airplane is really doing.
First and foremost, fly the airplane.
Fly the airplane. And that's our show for this week, and we invite you to tune in next week for a special announcement from AOPA, including some dates you may want to mark prominently on your flying calendar. Hint, hint.
And as always, thanks for being with us. Like, comment, and subscribe, or send us your thoughts to the address on your screen, and happy Thanksgiving.